Here you're looking at the painting in its finished stage after it's had some computer manipulation carried out on it. The thing is, with MagicMatch prints, I'm offering the ultimate in customization of a painting, and there are some areas of it that just can't be done by hand. You need the computer to do them. The computer is in there anyway because of color changes, specification changes. So there are times when you just simply have to accept that that's the way forward, that's how you have to do it. Some elements of the painting are computer generated by default, they have to be done that way. The sky and the terrain need to be standard for every painting I do. The sky is taken from another airbrush painting of mine, and the terrain is computer generated, as is the TR6 watermark in the sky, which has to be done that way because some people might not want it and I'll need to take it off. And also the glass is computer generated too, because if that was fixed it would be very hard to get in there and adjust any interior colour. Another consideration with computer use with these paintings is actually size. There is a limit to how small you can go and work by hand to the level of accuracy that I want to offer customers. Consider the size of the image. It's 37 centimeters or 14.5 inches across in total, which makes a wheel nut 4 millimeters across or 1/8 of an inch. That's not very big, is it? So what I'm going to do next is go through some of those areas that have needed some additional treatment, some areas that have been illustrated on screen using a mouse, which is far from easy, and it still needs an artist's eye to appreciate your light and shade and so forth. So there's all those things to consider. Then there's colour mixing and what options you're going to offer and so forth. It's complicated. MagicMatch is a very, very complicated product. So let's just take a look at what goes on in there. All the work is done in Photoshop, and Photoshop is a very high-end program. Most of you will have heard of it, and it uses layers. So you might have the car on one layer and say an alternative wheel on another, and you switch these on and off as you need to. But there are also other things you have to consider. Anything that you want to change the colour of, or hue, saturation, light and shade, you need a vector path, which is a hand-drawn path with a mouse that isolates an area of a painting to work on. The final section we'll be looking at is called the actions palette. This is where the different colours are mixed for bodywork shades and are stored using a sort of a tape recorder that's in Photoshop that records all the actions that you take to get from, say, a red body shell to a blue body shell. And these are stored, so you only have to mix your colour once, and then it's easy enough to apply it to any future requests from a customer. So the first thing we're looking at here is the paths palette. These are the vector paths I mentioned, and just look how many of them there are. Then you need to consider how those vector paths are going to be used. You have to activate one in order to be able to do anything, say colour change or whatever, within it. And you can see that here. Now it's now active. There's a moving dotted line around the area. This is the body shell. Here we're looking at the layers palette. These are all the different items that you can turn on and off to change the specification. There's a lot of them. You have to really know your car here and know what to offer. It can be quite daunting looking at the huge number of layers and paths. Make sure you identify them all so that you can find them easily. Although creating some aspects of an airbrush painting using a computer illustration, it has some advantages. You can guarantee a perfect fit. with an item that you've already illustrated, such as changing these wheel sensors. But you do have to be fairly adept with the mouse, because vector paths can prove tricky. The important thing to remember is construct it with as few points as possible, because every time you add a new point into a vector path, you add the potential for a wrong direction, a mistake, a lumpy appearance, that sort of thing. Here you can see the vector path needed to produce this steel wheel center just turned on. The nuts were actually illustrated separately and dropped onto this illustration. It all starts to get very complex. I mean, look at the overlapping paths. But this was one of the easier things to do. Taking a look at the construction of a mini light, for example, here you can see the center and the center cap and the outer rim. I haven't even started on the arms yet. Let's take a quick look at a vector path on here. I used the ellipse shape to draw it and distorted it into shape. So there are only 4 overall points, and each point can be individually altered. As you've seen, I've just clicked and dragged on these points. You can get them very precise, and always keep in mind to get the number of points to a minimum. Strangely enough, with these vector paths, the fewer points that you have, the easier they are to control. Here you can see the mini light spokes added, but look how many vector paths, which are highlighted here, it takes to create something. It really is a very complicated way of doing things, but it does give an incredible result. When you use vector paths and highlight them, make them active, you can isolate an area to work on, or you can turn the selection the other way around and work outside of the path. Both of these things are very useful. Now you can see the mini light wheel finished with background shading in there. It can be altered because it's been drawn on a computer in many ways. For instance, some mini lights have a much brighter silver to finish, some have anthracite spokes, and so on. This is very adaptable. Wire wheels are an absolute nightmare to illustrate. I've done them in the past, and they are just almost impossible to produce, for me anyway. So what I've done here is I've taken a manufacturer's illustration and I'm going to blend it in with some effects of my own. First off, you can see the vector path to knock out the white background in the spokes. That's necessary to be able to put your own shading relevant to the painting in there. Now you can see with everything that I don't want off the original photograph removed, and I've put a caliper and a disc brake in the back to give it a little bit more realistic effect, and I've applied a mild illustration filter so that it doesn't look too polished. So what do they look like on the car? You've got the black disc, the silver disc, then you've got the rim embellisher, then you've got the mini light, then you've got the wire wheel. Okay, now we're taking a look at what you might describe one of the final stages of a MagicMatch print. That's getting your body colour right. Now, I mentioned before about the tape recorder aspect. It records every step that I take when I'm mixing up a colour. In this instance, it's Make Racing Green. And as you can see, the first step is desaturate. Let's take all the colour right out of it. And then every single step that goes on after that is what is needed to get to the colour. I keep on adding to them until I'm satisfied with what I've got. Then when I've got there, I stop recording and it's saved for future use. Okay, this is the big change. So you get your path, you select it, and that's the moving dotted line that you can see. Now, when going on to that menu, where it had all the different colour changes, and this is each of the steps that I took when I made the original colour, and that's how we end up with racing green. There's a little more to it as well. I would change the colour of the door shuts, and I would probably lighten the colour of reflection on the front bumper. There's a lot of individual elements to a MagicMatch print that aren't done automatically. You have to appraise them by eye as you go along. This shows the full scope and range of a MagicMatch print and the number of different things you can change on there. And this is only in its launch state. There'll be a lot more as time goes by when customers request things that I haven't even thought of yet. And that really is how MagicMatch works. Whatever your chosen subject, if it's in any way technical, be it cars or anything else, never underestimate the amount of time it's going to take you to do it, the amount of layers you'll need to complete it, and the amount of paths you'll have to draw to get all the changes that you want. It's immensely complicated but very rewarding. I've never actually checked fully on the time that it takes me from completion of a painting to actually getting it on the website with all the alterations and everything else carried out. I think I'd frighten myself, to be quite honest. But that aside, I hope that it's encouraged some would-be airbrushers out there to actually get illustrating. It's rewarding when you see it through. Bye for now.